welcome to another episode of the Brown and Black podcast. My name is Jack Rico.
And I'm Mike Sargent.
And every week we take a look at race and pop culture through a brown and black lens. We have the stars of MEXODUS, Nygel Robinson, Brian Quijada, talking to us about a story that at this very moment, guys, it seems like an act of rebellion. We are probably in the most divided time in America, in our nation right now, where there is an attack towards black people and brown skin color.
Yeah.
Brown and black are not wanted by a certain group in America. And so anytime that brown and black people do anything, it is an act of rebellion. It is saying no to that system. And yes, to living in America where everyone has a say, where everyone has an American experience. But we're not going through that right now. Yet at this time, MEXODUS arrives.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is stunned that this story hasn't been told before, but yet two men, Nygel and Brian, came together to create something magical.
Wait, Jack, you got to do that again. Two men, one brown, one black, came together
to merge into one musical called MEXODUS.
Exactly.
So why is this show at this moment important for everyone to see, guys? Let's begin with you, Nygel.
I think it's important now because I would say that America in its inception was divided. There was never a chance for unity. All of this has been a facade. I don't think any of this has ever been real. We write these documents and it's in theory, all men are created equal, but they had no intention of including black ones and brown ones and any other ones except white ones. Not even women, you know what I mean? So like it was always a facade. So I think it's extra important now because like we're starting to see the resurgence of what America actually is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a white, heteronormative society with men ruling everything. And it's important to know that they, the big they, are trying to tell Brian and I that we are different. They're trying to tell us that, no, you're not the same. You should fight. But we both eat rice, beans, and chicken. We just cook it different ways. I might fry it. He might bake it. Like he might put adobo on it. I put Lowry's on it.
Yeah.
So rice.
I put Lowry's on it.
I love that.
I put adobo on that too. So like, you know. But I think this show is important to show people, look what you can do with two people. We are like a symphony's worth of sound coming out of two bodies. We stand on a stage and we just start playing stuff. And next thing you know, it's blowing the theater out.
Yo, give them the truth.
From 1829 to 1865, 4 to 10,000 slaves escaped to Mexico to thrive.
Did you know this shit? We didn't know this shit. Did you know this shit? We didn't know. Why? Cause it wasn't allowed. It wasn't allowed. It wasn't allowed. It wasn't spoken aloud.
There was no loudmouth, deep south secret way of speaking.
But like, how does that translate off of the stage? What are y'all doing on this podcast by just speaking and speaking these things? What are you doing to change things? What can we do in a school? What can we do in our community? What can we do in our jobs? What can we do? It's limitless if we just get together and we're on one accord. And we may not get along all the time. And I do want people to understand that this stuff isn't pretty. We do get mad. We do have differences. But if I choose you and you choose me,
Right.
we'll deal with our shit later. Can I cuss up here? I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Like, we'll deal with our shit later, but we've got bigger fish to fry right now. So yeah, I want people to understand that there are very few differences between us, and we are under the same foot of American imperialism and expansionism and empire. So we are under the same thing and we're affected the same ways for the most part. So instead of infighting, we need to let that go, and then we can move forward, and maybe then we'll be able to deal with our own shit after we try and get out of this system.
Brian, what is it that both of you are bringing to this that meets the moment in time?
Yeah, I think I've gone back and forth between a lot of you work on a show for 5 years and it hits you different and throughout the process of like, why is the show important right now? And we've been working on it so long that I think we've hit milestone seems like a weird way of saying like societal milestones, but because milestones has this very pretty connotation to it. But we released the very first track in 2020 when we were both in isolation, like sending music back to each other. So we were like releasing that first track, Two Bodies, a week after the murder of George Floyd. And so we were like, there is a reckoning happening in America. I originally wanted to write this piece because I write a lot about immigration. My parents crossed the border in the 70s. And they didn't want me to do theater, so a lot of my work is, guys, let me pay tribute to y'all by writing things that mean a lot to me and our family. And not prove to you that this is all worth it, but it's given me a mission statement in a weird way in the last 10 years of writing stuff. So writing a piece like MEXODUS, which is about that exact same border, it's just like a reverse border story in the way that we look at that borderline, was my initial wow, look at this immigration story, just in a totally flipped way. And then once I met Nygel and we committed to writing the show together, not only was the show about that, it became like hip hop was created by Black and brown people in the Bronx. It became the woman who climbed the Statue of Liberty protesting kids in cages. It became Cesar Chavez also fighting for Black civil rights during the migrant movement. You know what I mean? So it became larger than an individual mission. And so I find a lot of reasons why right now seems to be a really relevant time to be telling this story, just because I feel like throughout the 5 years that we've been working on it, there has just been fire, just like the burning of the world feeling like, and then us being like, we need to then spit hot fire too. You know what I mean? To like match it.
There's so many things about this, like Jack said, that we love, that aligns, like you guys are on the same mission we are. And I agree with everything you said. I think that now more than ever, and you probably have said this for the last 5 years, now more than ever, this is a time for brown and Black people to come together and realize, like you said, we're under that same foot. If you didn't think so before, you have to now. Right. So I want to ask you, Nygel, you read about this thing that most Americans don't know anything about. And in a way, it's like escaping from the bondage of our own cultural ignorance. To teach history now is an act of rebellion. So tell me a little bit of reading that, what you felt, what you thought, and how it shifted maybe your perspective on things, hearing the history of this and how brown and Black people have worked together.
I didn't know. So we met in 2020 and Brian was like, I have this idea. Underground Railroad went south to Mexico. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then I'm like,
Yes, how everybody responds.
Everybody responds that way.
Everyone, Blacks, Hispanics,
everybody responds that way. They're like, what?
Hey, do you know about this story? And they're like, what are you talking about? It's like, how is it possible we don't know this?
Yeah. Right. And I was like, of course. Like, where were you going to go from Texas? Where were you going to go from Alabama? Where were you going to go from Louisiana? Where were you going to go? You weren't going to go to Canada. You weren't going to make it that far. I think like all of the storms all happened like at the same time, like leading up to meeting Brian. Like I was listening to a lot of Paul Mooney. I love that man. May he rest in peace. And like his views, he's funny, but like his views on whiteness, I listen to it every single day, and it started to seep into my mind and become how I spoke. And I'm like, oh, I see how you're looking at the world, and I agree with that. And then Brian and I started working on it. And the more we've been working on it, the more I've been realizing that I've never had specific biases against other people of color, like in a harmful way. But I see how those narratives get spun. I see how they tell Black people, Mexicans are stealing all the jobs. Mexicans are blah, 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 and they're taking your rights away. It's like, no, they're not. No, they're not. What are you talking about? So it just made me look at the world in a very specific lens So I go back to what I said earlier, like I see the division. I see you trying to divide us, and I don't buy it anymore. So everything that I create is going to be to fight against you trying to tell me something that just everything. And it's crazy that this is an act of resistance. Teaching history is an act of resistance. It's just teaching history. Why is that harmful? Why? I ask why all the time. Like, why is that harmful? And it's harmful because it harms this system that they have built. Because if you take, you know, the movie A Bug's Life, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where the grasshoppers are like,
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line.
they understand that the minority, and they get that if America exists on division and confusion. So if they keep us divided, and they keep us stupid, they keep us confused, we'll never realize. So I have devoted like this artistic work that I'm doing, like every single thing I'm doing. I can't write anything frivolous. Like it has to be telling people, wake up, please. I don't even want to say woke anymore because whiteness is a really interesting thing. How they just stole that. I'm like, wait, I heard that from Erykah Badu, like stay woke, but they took it and now it's the woke mafia or whatever. But like, I want people to wake up. And I keep yelling, and I feel like I'm yelling into a void half the time because either I'm preaching to the choir or yelling into a void, but we have to keep yelling. Long way of answering that. Like it has changed the way I create stuff. It has changed what I talk about. And now like my mission, like I'm not outside. I'm not throwing bricks at the police. I'd love to, but I probably shouldn't. But like I'm not outside like that, but I am with a pen. I might not be at the protest, but what if I wrote the song that they play at the protest? What if my protest? So if I'm not going to be outside, I'm going to be inside on a computer trying to make something that changes somebody a little bit.
All right. I got to ask you, Brian, what really struck me about this history is that most people had this view of people come to America to be free versus you have to leave America to find freedom, which is a whole other thing. So tell me about you discovering this. And I'm sure Black people react in a certain way and Latino people react in a certain way. So tell me what it meant to you and spreading the gospel of this even before you met Nygel. What was this like?
And to add to what Mike is saying, and what emotions
what did you feel
drove you creating this?
I found the article. Somebody posted it on good old Facebook. And I was like, oh, snap. I keep like a notes app of like ideas of plays.
Me too, yeah.
And more ideas of songs or whatever. So I'm just like, one day I'll get to this. Like, this is a gold mine, though. Some of them are trash and some of them like this. Stay on your phone for a while until you find the right collaborator. But I remember sitting on it for a while being like, this is going to be a huge undertaking. It will require a lot. And it did. Like, not only just like the emotional kind of weight of carrying lines like Black and brown people continue being hunted in 2025, you know what I mean? But also, it was like detective work. Like, the Underground Railroad that led north was incredibly well documented. The one that led to Mexico was not. People were changing their names from John to Juan. People were like, it's hard to keep that. So,
wait, there were Black people that were changing their names to Latino names?
Totally, yeah. They were getting, Mexicans were giving them citizenship, and to mask their identities of their slave backgrounds, they were like, no, I'm a Black Mexican, you know what I mean? And so we had to build a composite narrative based on these small pieces of information that we were getting. One of them being, we read about a folktale of a runaway slave who floated on a bale of cotton to cross the Rio Grande. And we were like, oh my God, the beauty and the fact that the thing that enslaved this man was the thing that helped him get to freedom. And so like little things like that, we kept inserting into the making of it. I think now, once we had like the story and we started sharing it with people in the 5 years of development and like showing it to people, I think the thing for me that was mind-blowing in talking to Latinos and Mexicans was like, where did the solidarity come from? And because I think the reality within our culture is that there is an extreme amount of colorism, right? Like within Latinidad, there is still who is closest to whiteness. There's racism within our communities, right? Outside of African American, outside of what it means to be Black in America, there is our own problems within the spectrum of how close to whiteness we are. And so I think that started seeping into, I think, the politics of putting a Latino on stage and telling this story. And that's like, for me, something that was really a scary thing to do. You know, like I remember talking to my mom being like, Mom, I'm going to put a piece in this play about the first time that you like told me to lock the doors when we were in the South Side of Chicago. Do you remember that? I was like 6 years old. And that fucks you up as a child. That moment when I was a kid, you taught me how to be biased. That was like a seed of racism. You didn't mean bad malice by it or whatever. But that shit is happening everywhere within our community. That happens all the time. And it's fucked up and we need to unlearn it. And so things like that are the conversations that I'm having within my community that I think are really important and an aspect of this. Because actually, when you look at the history of why Mexicans helped these runaway slaves, Mexico was coming off of losing the Mexican-American War. They were coming off of being incredibly bitter that America had stolen so much of their land that they were like, why the hell would we give you back the slaves that are making you more powerful and you take more land? The act of solidarity started out of political reasons. Do you know what I mean? And then sure, it might have moved into, oh yeah, look at the things that we can make when we unite against white supremacy. Things like that, where the research was leading to conversations, was leading to, whoa, the thing that we thought we were making is even larger than the themes that we tackle in MEXODUS.
Right. Nygel, Brian, you guys are extremely talented, man. Holy shit, you guys are talented.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
This story is so huge that I thought that it would take a full cast of 20, 40, 100 people. But this is just you two.
Yeah.
And that's blowing my mind. Like, you're putting the music together, you're putting the lyrics together, you're putting the whole creative output together for us, because I see Broadway written all over this.
Oh, that's very nice.
That's nice.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah.
It will happen.
Oh,
this is like
absolutely.
manifestation.
Absolutely.
I mean, can you please tell me why this is a two-man crew job?
And is there any cloning involved?
I know.
Well, let me.
Yeah, it's goats though.
We are. The first song says, "Go ahead and stare at us. We are two bodies in America." So I think it's in the DNA of the show that it's just the two of us, like coming together. Hey, we're going to try and tell you something that you need to know. And I think when it's two of us, it's like the story of brotherhood and this individual moment of solidarity, small moments like this. If everybody does a little small moment like the two of us do in this show, it'll all become a change. And then as far as if we fall out, what happens to the show, there's a contradiction somewhere. And it's that if we say this is bigger than we are, we don't have to be in it because it's bigger than we are.
We're also, not unicorns. Like I think that's what's dope, is that like we met at an actor-musician conference. We were one of, I think there were only 3 people of color there.
No, it was just us two.
And everybody was talking about, oh yeah, when we're touring Once, when we're touring $1 Million Quartet, when we're touring Natasha, you know what I mean? We were like, I'm never going to do those shows. Like, I don't speak in those accents. And like, nobody will believe that I'm Jerry Lee Lewis. There is something about the fact that we got together and we were like, can we do an actor, musician, theater show, musical, where we get to be ourselves? You know what I mean? Lin-Manuel opened the doors blasted open, kicked down the doors for us to be able to have a very easy accessibility for other theater lovers to come and see the show and be like, oh yeah, I've heard this before. You know what I mean? But in the show, we say this is the story of America's other founding fathers, because we're playing black and brown people and we're playing instruments doing that. And I think in an avenue that we never got a chance to before. Yeah. And the fact that we have understudies and we've cast them at this point, like we're like 2 understudies deep. There are people waiting in the rafters, talented motherfuckers who can do this shit, who just haven't gotten their chance in the sun. We did the show in Berkeley and both of us went down within a week of each other. And both of those dudes stepped in.
Blew out of the water.
Nobody knew. Yeah. Nobody knew.
So that's the art. That's the art right there. It's the fact that you make a vessel, and you've talked about this. I think it was you, Brian, who talked that this was a vessel. And that in this vessel, we all fit.
Yeah.
And so anybody who's black and talented and can tell the story is Nygel.
Right.
And anybody who's Latino and tells that Mexican part of the story is Brian. And so Brian, like everyone's an extension of the character you guys are making, these 2 brown and black people in American history. So
yeah, it must live on. Like it can't just fall on us.
Yeah.
Why the story? We're not robots. We're not built to last forever. And this stuff always begets more people. They come out of the woodwork. They're like, oh, I can do that. I'm like, yes, you can. And you're weird and you're specific. And no one gives you a chance. And we're going to give you a chance.
Mike and I were taking brown and black stories to people. When I heard this, I said to myself, Mike, I wonder if this operates also like Hollywood. Like you got a story and now you got to pitch it to someone for funding and investment and everything. What happens when you pitch a white person something where they're not included? They might be the villain in some cases or the ally in other cases, because this is also true of history.
Yeah.
But how did you guys get to have white people okay and green light, so to speak, this brown and black story in the most divided time in American history since Floyd until now?
This has been the wildest, easiest, luckiest process I've ever witnessed in my life. Like Liz Carlson, who we are both madly in love with. We love Liz. She was running New York Stage and Film and had reached out to Brian. They had a prior relationship. She was like, you want to work on something? It was a pandemic. They were like, we have some money. You want to make something for no reason? Because like we were in hell and we didn't know when we were getting out.
Everybody lost their job. Everybody, right? Nobody had work.
But they were like, here's like some money to stay afloat. And he was like, yeah, well, I met this guy and we have this idea. And we started writing this thing and she gave it a chance. And there are people in the world, contrary to popular belief, there are white people in the world who are like, I don't have to be at the center of this. We don't mention the word white at all in this show. Made a point to you don't say white because you don't exist right now. You know what I mean? Like this is about us. And what's the point when we're like, I'm angry at the white man and I'm only talking about the white man. I'm centering you. So the only way we're going to decenter whiteness if we don't talk about it. Yes, we talk about the United States and like that as like a unit and as a foot on us, but we don't say white. But there are so many people who have supported us who've been like this. There's universality in a story that's super specific. Yes, it's about brown and black people, and we are insistent that it is about that. When a white person watches it, what do they see? What brotherhood do they see in it? What solidarity do they see in it? How are they affected by it? What can I do now as an ally? What can I do with other people? You know what I mean? So it's like there is universality and specificity. And I think that's what has attracted a good amount of white people to the show, even though it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. But also, like, we live in a capitalistic society, right? Hollywood is about making money. Broadway is about making money.
Yes, it is.
It is a business. And so I think, weirdly, though we're incredibly serious about our art, it's hard being an artist today. You know what I mean? You can't not possibly be like, you can't worry about the money or what sells or like the right tagline You have to, if you want to be produced, if you want people to see you, if you want to sell tickets. And so luckily, this show has a really easy tagline. I could walk into an elevator and say, come watch this live looped hip hop musical about the Underground Railroad that led south to Mexico. And then I can walk out of the elevator like, okay, I'll go. You know what I mean?
I got you.
Yeah, I got you. I'll see you there. And that has helped us like immensely. And also like producers are like, oh, it's just two dudes. I don't have to pay that much. Yeah. Which also, I suppose, makes it easier. Although it's a huge musical. Little do they know that we require a bunch of technology and blah, blah, blah. I think it's really hard to not consider all of those things. And I think at the end of the day, though, for as much, once people see it, because it takes one person believing you, and then somebody seeing that and being like, I'll give you a chance. I'll give you some money and workshop it over here and blah, blah, blah. You slowly start collecting these people who are supporting you. But I think what it actually is beyond the tagline, beyond how easy it is to pitch, for as much trauma and pain and betrayal that this story has, we lead it with an incredible amount of joy. And we're going to go into these rooms and have a great time. And this music we're going to be playing reggaeton, but also like Kendrick style, like beats, and then also move to like beautiful Mexican ballads. You know what I mean? Like we're approaching it with exactly what Nygel said, like that it's about us and it's about like the birth of a brotherhood and lead to a hopeful movement of people coming together. But it has to be led with a good time and joy. And that's what I think people walk into the theater thinking they're going to see and then leave being like, oh my God, that was a blast. Because we're having a blast. And again, I'm not trying to rip the rug of what is underneath, the truth of what is underneath of it. But like the solve, the medicine on the wound is joy and coming together.
The birth of brotherhood.
I was just going to say, we're going to steal that hashtag to the brotherhood.
Brown and black.
Brown and black. Birth of the brotherhood. All right. I have to ask you both, because you have such a bond and you have this deeply ingrained knowledge now, and you've created art from it to express it. And this is a two-part question. Getting this information out there and will help brown and black people unify. And I'll be honest, Jack and I have been doing this pretty much the same amount of time you guys started working, because we started in the pandemic. And we've definitely been on a mission, and we're two people. We met professionally, we clicked, and we had a similar vision. We also had a similar hunger to understand and know about each other's culture. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on what if this had been taught in schools? What if this was part of the curriculum? I'll be honest, living in New York is like living in a bubble. My knowledge, I have had Latino friends like since I was a child. It never crossed my mind that there was any anti-blackness until much later in life. And so just want to get your thoughts on how knowing about our past would have influenced our present and the future.
Oof, that is a deep and tough question, because we have to think,
you have to go into the multiverse.
Yeah, you got to go way back and wonder what if. And I'm just thinking, as a kid, we learned about like atrocities, like true atrocities when I was like 11. Like that's when we learned about the Holocaust, and we learned about what genocide is, but we only learned about one kind of genocide. And we didn't really learn. They didn't talk about the Native American genocide as like a genocide. They were just like, and then manifest destiny. That's how they taught it. So had they taught us the truth about things, I'm just thinking of myself as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, how I would have looked at the little Latino kid, how I would have looked at the little Asian kid, how I would have looked at different kids and been like, I am taught to have a different level of empathy for you. And you are taught to have a different level of empathy for me. I didn't choose to come here, and we didn't go freely, and black people sold it. You stripped everybody away from their home. You split them up based off of their languages to confuse them. You did this. And if America taught us the truth, it wouldn't work. This would have failed years ago. So we wouldn't still be in this thing today, I don't think. I think this would have imploded a long time ago, because this kind of story would have happened in the 70s. And on a big scale. Like not some like fringe thing in Lower Manhattan. It would have been on a big scale. So I think we would have empathy as children, and we would have grown up to be adults with empathy instead of being like, yeah, well, cart them off and take them. I don't care. It ain't got nothing to do with me. Yes, it does have something to do with you, nigga. Like, it does have something to do with you. I hate when black people are like, it has nothing to do with me. It's over. I'm like, yes, it does, because they're going to get you next. What do you think they're doing? They're just knocking it off, checking boxes. Got them, got the Mexicans going for the Caribbeans going for you now. We don't see patterns. We don't see it because they don't teach us to notice how cyclical it is. Yeah. So I think that they wouldn't stand a chance if they taught us this. So they chose not to teach us that so that there could still be a level of control. And I say it a lot. America is built off of division and confusion. And those two words wouldn't exist if you taught us about solidarity between Mexicans and black people. We would have been children with empathy and grown up to be adults with empathy. And we have none now, for the most part.
And Brian, what are your thoughts on?
Yeah, man. When really scary things happen on a government level, the first impulse is to be like, protect me, protect my own, protect my kids. You know what I mean? Like my house. And that is, I'm not saying that's not like a legit thing to feel. I'm saying that if you go out to the street, and especially like in a city like New York, when we were just like a couple months ago protesting, right? No kings, it's like everybody. And that can only happen out of an informed collective, right? Out of the education that comes out of being like, cool, we have to march because we know what's happened before. So education is the first level of it. The second level is overcoming the fear of being like, I need to protect myself, and being like, I need to protect my community. I need to protect the people around me. And like that it becomes a unified. It's a bug's life, dude. It's at the end of the day, it's a bug's life. You know what I mean? Like we need to be the collective because we'll overcome our fears more when we're all doing it together.
All right. I just wanted to get a little sense of your creative process. Maybe you could walk us through one song, maybe like King Cotton. Like, how do you guys work? Because we watched that video and you guys are like seamless. So you have the chemistry is instant. It reminded me a little of me and Jack. Okay. But
for the most part, I wrote what I say and Brian wrote what he says. So like you've got these two very different voices and two different styles, but some of our styles, like we intersect a lot as well. Like that by chance, we happen to intersect a lot, but like you mash these different things together and then somehow it was cohesive. Like during lockdown, like I would write a verse, I'd make a piano loop and a drum loop. Brian would write like a verse and write like make a guitar loop and a bass loop or something. And then like, I put it all together in the Logic and be like, here's a track that kind of makes sense. Mess with that line, do this there, but it just started making sense. But now,
yeah, and also so Liz Carlson, who we very much love, who was at New York Stage and Film, who was a person who you could say commissioned the piece.
Yeah,
she's the godmother of the project.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And she was just like, why don't you write a piece during the pandemic? And we were like, for what? Who's gonna? Why? Now, also, I think everybody was like, we were all depressed. But I mean, it was a great step. But she was like, okay, what if you release one track for every month for a year? God willing, fingers crossed, next summer we'll put up a tent and you can perform the concept album. And that's exactly what we did. But the structure of having one track for a month was like the puzzle, right? I was just like, okay, 12 tracks. That means that it's a 3-act play divided into 4 tracks for each act, right? First act is 4 tracks of the intro and Henry being on the plantation. Then it becomes the escape. The next 4 tracks will be the escape and going into Mexico. And then the last 4 tracks will be Henry on his route to Mexican citizenship. And like for us, that served as like the kind of story structure that we needed to fill in with research, with assignments of, okay, this song's going to be all in Spanish. I got to go write this one. And also it wasn't in order. We went like July was track 1 of Act 1. What comes after July? August was track 1 of Act 2.
Yeah.
We went like 1-1-1 of each. So it was a crazy way of it shouldn't have worked.
But for the musical theater nerds, it should not have worked, but it creates motifs and it places them. It like places them in like
something we had written in July, came back a little bit in August, but they're in separate parts of the play, so it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was just like coincidental. Like I'm telling you, like when we talk about this play and we're like it's larger than or blah blah blah. It also seems like the theater gods are like it's called MEXODUS. There is a lot of God in this play, and it felt like we were just like guided by something.
But they shouldn't.
So you were creating a vessel, and you were vessels yourselves.
Literally, yeah.
Dude, this is destiny. This is pre-fated, my friend. So I want to leave it with this thought and this question. I feel that MEXODUS could easily become the next Hamilton. And I think that when people talk about hip-hop musicals in Broadway today in the new modern society, they're reminded of Hamilton. Mm-hmm. But this isn't Hamilton. There's a difference to it. And if you can briefly talk about the differences that people will see when they see this hip hop musical, it's much more different types of music and everything else. And then finally, the audience that will be stepping into the theater at Minetta Lane at the Audible Theater on September 9th, when previews come out, and then September 18th in its opening. When they see it, what should they leave the theater talking about?
It for sure has similarities. Just yesterday, we did like a press event, and we were like, who are your favorite rap? And we're like, Busta Rhymes. We were saying so many people that if you're a hip hop head, the godfathers of hip hop have influenced you. Anybody who's writing hip hop theater has similar influences to Lin, and like that stuff. It makes you wonder at times. It makes you wonder how I keep them going, how I keep from keeping one under. It's a different line than Hamilton, but I'm like, yeah, we all get that, and we do it too. We're just like paying tribute to the rappers that we love in the show, and in that way, it's very similar. And yeah, it's also like historical. Like we're like spouting out dates to give you context to the history. And in that way, we're like incredibly grateful. And we're hoping he comes. Like we're hoping he comes too. And Ludacris, and we want
Kendrick and Chance.
Yeah, we want them all to come. Yeah. Because I think we're just showing our love that way by being like, this is the music that Black and brown people created, that they have made a world respected music. And I think the difference is, like I said, and we pay our tribute in the show, the other founders of America, the ones that I think are neglected, the ones that are like not often given voice to.
I think Hamilton is Lin-Manuel's magnum opus. I think it's a perfect thing from top to bottom. And it's Black and brown people telling a story about white American history. Now, I'm not saying that in a shady way. This is Black and brown people telling a story about Black and brown people. And I hate when people look at it and they're like, oh, it's Hamilton because like we're Black and we're brown and we're like dancing and rapping. No, it's not the same. So have respect for Hamilton. We have immense respect for it because it literally makes this possible for us to do this. It's made hip hop a mainstream thing in theater, but also respect that these are different stories being told in different ways. Just because we're the same color as they are doesn't mean that we're the same thing that they are. And then like, as far as people walking out of the Audible's Minetta Lane Theater, I just want them to know that you can do anything. You can do anything. People look at us and they're like, you play all the instruments and you wrote it and you blah, blah. Yes, because we can do anything if we put our minds to it. And look what we can do together. We can really do anything together. Don't ever try to put us in a box. You try to put us in the box saying that we couldn't possibly have written it and done all that. You're trying to minimize us, and we can do anything. And you can too. Stop doing that, because when you're putting that on me, you're projecting that from yourself. You can't do anything. So how could we? But you can do anything. And you need to know that you need to open your eyes and realize that there is a system against you that is working every day to keep you confused and divided. And we are just one little thing in your Friday evening or whenever you see the show that could try and tell you to just open your eyes a little bit. I have been going crazy for about 7 years. Ever since like my eyes started opening, I'm like, oh God, they're even trying to control me with Christianity. Jesus Christ. I got to break everything down. I got to run. They're trying to control me in church. Black people are trying to control me for white people. I'm like, what's going on? So I just want people to walk out and just open their eyes a little bit bigger and see what the world is trying to do to them. And maybe then we'll start changing something.
Nygel Robinson, Brian Quijada, they are the stars of the new hip-hop musical MEXODUS. Previews begin Tuesday, September 9th at Audible's Minetta Lane Theater in New York City. And gentlemen, did I hear this true? It's $35?
It is $35 right now.
Dog.
Yes.
Because then it's super accessible to everybody. It's not, here's $600 just for
Go
one
get him
seat.
now. Go get him now.
Go get him now.
If you
Gotta
got
go get him now.
$600, you can donate 500 and
To our personal Venmo.
no, you can donate $570 and buy like some tickets for people that can't see it.
That's true.
There you go.
Spend it,
Boom.
dog.
That's
$35. You can buy your
Yes.
tickets now for September 9th and the 18th. Nygel, Brian, thank you for being on the Brian
Thank
Black
you so
Podcast.
much for
Thank
having me.
you. Thank you.
Oh, my dear Lord, we only singing it cause it's the way we live with it. Oh, my dear Lord, give us a freedom, spare your pity, we don't need it like, oh, my dear Lord. Go ahead and stare at us. We are two bodies in America. Stories span-
That's it for this episode of Brown and Black. If you would like to support this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. Your help will allow us to be heard by many more people. You can follow our comments and opinions on @BrownBlack Podcast on Instagram, YouTube, and now on Substack. We'll see you on the next episode of Brown and Black.
They were bound by treatment that was senseless. They were given new names, but the names weren't recorded in the census. But that's what comes from being 3/5 a person. But just when you thought the situation would worsen,
In 1863, Lincoln signed a proclamation, but was it set into action?
until 1865, that's when freedom after 200 long years finally happened.
And that would have freed Henry Haskins and 4 million others.
But what's freedom when you've lost your name, you've lost your sense of self, your sister and your mother? Is that freedom? Cause even with freedom, they would discover that
Out of slavery's ashes, there arose a system of
they were
segregation.
physically liberated, but liberation in this nation is still being confronted. When black and brown bodies continue being hunted. 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 My people crossed the border before there was a wall.
But America forgot she was supposed to welcome all. America forgot she was supposed to welcome all. America forgot she was America, so go ahead and stare at us. We are two bodies in